Good evening and thank you for joining us. A major win for the Ontario Nurses Association, which has about 1,400 members here in Thunder Bay. An arbitrator has awarded the nurses an 11% wage increase over 2 years. The ONA president at Thunder Bay Regional says the hike is long overdue and will go a long way toward attracting nurses to an understaffed healthcare system. Vasilios Bellos reports.
More than 65,000 healthcare workers across the province are celebrating one of the most significant wage increases the sector has seen in decades.
We've been behind in wages for over 10 years, and they heard it, the public heard it, everybody heard it, and we've got something now.
After months of province-wide demonstrations, Ontario Nurses Association members will be receiving an 11% wage increase over 2 years. That's an arbitrator's decision after the ONA couldn't reach a deal with the Ontario Health Association. The arbitrator cited the nursing retention and recruitment crisis as a reason for the decision, calling compensation one of the best ways to address the issue. Local ONA bargaining president Donna Wheel believes the decision will prevent people from leaving the sector and attract new workers.
Professionals, and we need to have the incentives to keep people coming into the profession. In the 90s, people would say to me, "Oh, I want to be a nurse," and people were super stoked about it. And now people are like, I hear. And so there has to be something to make it turn around.
The decision comes after Bill 124, which capped wage increases on public sector employees, including ONA members, to 1% for 3 years, was deemed unconstitutional. With the compensation that came from that, combined with the arbitrator's wage decision, ONA members will see a 16% increase between March of this year and April of 2024.
Ways to help support how healthcare workers are valued.
Thunder Bay Regional President Rhonda Crocker-Ellicott was happy to hear the news about the wage increase, especially with the challenges faced by healthcare workers during the pandemic.
Any and all opportunities to look to value, create better equity for healthcare workers is always a positive step. And recruitment and retention and anything to really improve that from a financial perspective is always welcome.
The pay bumps for ONA members equates to about a $5 to $7 an hour wage increase. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
There's also more reaction to the news coming from across the province today. Siobhan Morris has more.
The first new contract for nurses in Ontario's hospitals since the birth of Bill 124 comes with a big pay bump. This one wasn't at the bargaining table, but through an arbitrator.
I think he made a pivotal decision.
The arbitrator awarded nurses a 4.5% increase to their grid. Add on 3.5% more this year, another 3% next year, for an 11% pay increase in 2 years.
It really helps adjust things in the country as well. We went from 5th to 1st for a starting wage.
The hope is that higher pay will entice nurses to stay in Ontario. The arbitrator acknowledges that higher wages alone can't solve a staffing crisis, but sees the role they can play when 9,000 nursing spots are vacant in Ontario hospitals.
For an arbitrator to acknowledge that is one of the first times that has occurred.
This speaks volumes. It means to, and it shows that, collective action means that we can see change.
A lawyer for hospitals has raised concerns that the union got more than it would have in bargaining given fiscal pressures on hospitals.
The Ford government has not spent its entire healthcare budget. So I don't think our wage increase will have an impact.
In a statement, the head of the Ontario Hospital Association says in part that the decision is an important piece of a larger, comprehensive strategy to address the health human resources challenges impacting Ontario's healthcare system, and that hospitals truly value the critical role nurses play. Some nurses view this change as historic, but they say there's still work to do.
The staffing crisis is still there. We still need to make sure that we keep nurses. I think this is one piece, but also we have to look at, nursing to patient ratios. We need to look at work-life balance.
To improve the experience for nurses and their patients.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris. The new federal electoral boundaries for Ontario that will take effect after the next election have now been finalized. And while the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding will remain virtually the same, the boundaries for Thunder Bay Superior North will expand to include most of the Matawa First Nations. The The riding's new boundary will cover several areas that were previously in the Kenora, Timmins, and Algoma ridings. This includes 5 of the 9 Matawa First Nations. Martin Falls, Webequie, Ebmatung, and Nebenamik will now be in Thunder Bay Superior North. The riding will also include Puckasaw National Park near Marathon. MP Patty Haidu says the inclusion of more remote communities will provide an extra challenge.
Travel in and out of remote communities without road access is challenging in the best of times, and to be an effective representative, one has to visit communities to meet members on the ground. You can certainly work with elected leaders in Thunder Bay, for example, or in other settings, but to really get the feel for communities and what matters to them, it's important to get to those communities, and so that will provide opportunity and challenge for the next Member of Parliament for Thunder Bay Superior North.
The new boundaries will take effect after the next federal election. Average Thunder Bay rental costs are unaffordable for those making minimum wage, according to a new national study. The city's rental rates are still on the low end of cities across the country, but Thunder Bay didn't escape the nationwide trend of rising rent. Lee Noonan has the details.
In order to afford an average 2-bedroom apartment in Thunder Bay, a single earner would need to make $22.60 an hour, or roughly $45,000 a year. That's according to a recent study by the left-leaning think tank Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Those earning minimum wage would have to work 76 hours a week.
Some people are doing that. They're working 2 jobs full time, and it's leaving no time for good mental health and time for living, right?
Thunder Bay Poverty Reduction Strategy Coordinator Bonnie Krizawati says the numbers aren't surprising and reflect what she sees every day in her work.
Do you want to take a class to upgrade? Forget about that. Do you want to go to camp for a couple of weeks? That's not in the cards either. Even going to a movie can be unaffordable for people just because of their housing costs.
The report shows the city's highest rental rates, affordable only to those making at least $27.25 an hour, are in the College Heights Grandview Lakefront area. Near Confederation College, you'd need $25 an hour. The lowest rates are in the East End, where a renter needs to make $20.71 an hour, still well above the $15.50 minimum wage.
We know there is an epidemic of homelessness in the city.
Krizawati says the cost of housing is a major factor in that, and that more housing of all types needs to be made available.
We really have to question whether or not people in general can pay their bills, their housing. We know that people on social assistance can't. We know that people earning a minimum wage can't. And now we're finding that people even earning a living wage are finding it tough to do that.
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The new name of the Geraldton Airport was recently unveiled in Greenstone. It's now called the Renaud Beaulieu Greenstone Regional Airport, after the man who served as mayor of Long Lac for 12 years and of Greenstone for another 12. Beaulieu says he's honored by the gesture and is grateful to the people of Greenstone and the 2 councils that voted in favor of the name change. Beaulieu retired just before the 2022 election after serving the communities for a total of 24 years. We caught up with him to get his thoughts on the special honor and ask whether he has any advice for the amalgamated municipality moving forward.
All the taxpayers, whether you're from Beardmore, Jellicoe, doesn't matter where, when you pay taxes, you're paying taxes to Greenstone. So we're all paying for that airport. And I just said that it should be called Greenstone Regional Airport. Well, then they're calling it Renaud Beaulieu Greenstone Airport. Whether it's an event going on in Geraldton or an event going on in Long Lac or in Beardmore, we got to find a way to focus and trying to get people in so that we can all get to be a big happy family.
Beaulieu believes this honor serves as an example for young people that commitment to one's community brings a positive outcome. Pilots with Wasaya Airways have a tentative new deal after 5 months of negotiations. The union says the new contract should help with pilot retention due to higher wages, better job security protections, and improved working conditions. No other details will be released until after the ratification vote on August 10th. The airline employs about 80 pilots, serving 24 remote First Nations. Kids got the chance to sharpen their cycling skills yesterday evening at Mary J.L. Black Library as Eco Superior hosted a bike safety session. Families learned proper bicycle safety to help kids and their parents feel more confident about riding this summer. Jessica Clement has the story.
With summer fully in swing, Eco Superior wanted to make sure local kids and their families were well equipped with bike and helmet safety knowledge to keep everyone safe during the season. The family bike safety session started off with a safety talk where Eco Superior program coordinator Nicole Eckert spoke about helmet safety and bike riding etiquette.
So once your helmet's on, and you wiggle your head like this, say now, it shouldn't wiggle.
Kids were then taken outside for a bike safety check with volunteers from Bicycles for Humanity and a helmet check. Eckert says it's important for both kids and their caregivers to learn about bike safety.
We teach only the kids and they go home and their parents, for example, aren't wearing a helmet and not showing a great example of why it's so important to wear a helmet, then we're not getting the message across to everyone and it's not showing kids how important it is. So if we bring everyone together to learn all those skills, it makes the whole community safer.
After the safety checks, kids were finally able to get on their bikes and practice cycling skills with safe cycling instructors. This included straight line riding, hand signals, and shoulder checks. While the kids said they knew some of the skills and techniques, they still learned a lot.
Today I learned how to use my hand signals to turn left and right.
I learned to check my bike. I also learned to sacrifice your back tire, or when you notice something last minute.
This is the first time Eco Superior has held a safety session at the library, and Eckert hopes they'll be able to host more in the future.
It's sort of a trial run, so hopefully it'll go well and maybe we can have more events like this in the future, or maybe in different areas of the city. Possibly next year, probably not again this summer. We do have the bike programs going in schools in September of this year. And I don't know, we'll see depending on the success of this event and the feedback that we get. Hopefully we will be able to do more in the future.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.